previous chapters, we explored the origins of a path that would decisively shape the history of the education of blind people. We retraced the Renaissance and 17th century attempts to transform writing into a tactile experience, and we arrived at the 18th century reflections, which, thanks to philosophers such as Rousseau, brought the issue of knowledge for blind people to the center of the European cultural and educational debate. We saw ingenious projects that often remained only on paper, and we encountered insights that revealed a fundamental truth: that blind people could learn, understand, and participate in shared knowledge through a more conscious development of tactile sensitivity. The real turning point, however, had not yet arrived. At the end of the 18th century, the education of blind people ceased to be a collection of isolated experiments or simple theoretical speculations and became a concrete reality thanks to the creation, in Paris, of a permanent institution with teachers, pupils, and methods. This is where Valentin Haüy enters the scene, founder of the first school for blind people in the world, who acted with extraordinary passion and determination. Haüy's vocation was born from an episode that marked him deeply. In 1771, he visited the Fair of Saint Ovid, one of the most popular street festivals in Paris, and witnessed a cruel farce. Some blind people, grotesquely dressed, pretended to be musicians and produced harsh, discordant sounds to amuse the crowd. That humiliating and contemptuous scene caused in Haüy a strong sense of disgust and deep indignation. At that moment, he developed the conviction that blind people should not be objects of mockery or pity, but individuals capable of receiving an education and accessing culture like everyone else. Valentin Haüy, born in 1745 into a family of weavers, was a man of exceptional abilities. He knew 10 modern languages in addition to ancient Greek and Hebrew, and in 1783 he became an interpreter to the king. His interest in the education of blind people was further strengthened by meeting the Abbé de la Paix, pioneer of the Paris School for Deaf People. The decisive episode occurred in 1784. Legend tells that Haüy met a young blind beggar named François Lesueur, who used touch with great skill and who could carve letters with a knife and recognize the value of a coin. This encounter inspired in Haüy the idea that a well-trained blind person could even learn to read a complex text. Lesueur became his first pupil and learned to read thanks to wooden letters and characters strongly impressed onto paper, which could be perceived through touch. Within a few months, his progress and the speed with which he developed new abilities confirmed Haüy's intuition. The success of this first experiment pushed Haüy to found a school, which he initially opened in his own home and later moved to a larger premises thanks to royal funding. During that period, he collaborated with the blind pianist Maria Theresia von Paradis, who passed on to him her teaching methods, and he also broadened his knowledge by collecting experiences from various European educators. In a short time, the school welcomed 48 pupils, both male and female, and was transformed into a lively community in which couples and families were also formed. To obtain support and funding, the school organized concerts and demonstrations in Versailles, where blind students presented their skills in reading, arithmetic, and the use of tactile maps. An internal printing workshop was also created, producing embossed books, including Haüy's Essay on the Education of Blind People, which was distributed to the nobles of the court. Haüy devised an innovative method for teaching reading to blind people. He used the same letters as those found in ordinary print, but embossed on paper. In some cases, thin copper wires were fixed to the back of the page to make the relief more pronounced, allowing the fingertips to glide over the shapes and recognize them. The experiment was highly successful and attracted the interest of the Société Philanthropique of Paris. With their support, Haüy obtained a premises and the necessary resources, and in 1785, the Institution des Jeunes Aveugles was founded, the first organized school in the world dedicated to the education of blind people. The printing process was ingenious but complex. Large, rounded, cursive, embossed letters were used, and a very damp sheet of paper was pressed onto them. The pressure left the shapes of the letters imprinted, creating a tangible trace. To obtain books readable on both sides, 2 sheets were glued together, back to back. Despite the value of the innovation, the method had significant limitations. It allowed reading but not autonomous writing, and the typographical letters were difficult to distinguish by touch. Furthermore, the letters were large and impractical, and the reader was forced to follow them extremely slowly. The historical significance of Haüy's invention was nevertheless enormous, because for the first time, blind people could directly access the written word and education. His Paris Institute became a model, imitated in many European cities, from Berlin to St. Petersburg, and it paved the way for more effective systems, such as the one that would later lead to Braille. After the French Revolution, Valentin Haüy lost control of his institute and for years continued to teach privately, supporting himself with a small state pension. In 1802, Napoleon dismissed him and forced him to leave France. He departed with one of his most promising pupils, Alexandre Fournier, and spent more than a decade in exile, working with blind students in various European countries, including Russia. Meanwhile, the idea of schools for blind people was spreading rapidly, and within a few decades, institutions were founded in Liverpool in 1791, in Vienna in 1804, in Berlin in 1806, in Amsterdam in 1808, in Dresden in 1809, in Zurich in 1810, and in Copenhagen in 1811. Many of these institutions were directly inspired by Haüy's methods and demonstrated that his intuition had found fertile ground throughout Europe. When he returned to France, Haüy was tired, poor, and almost blind, and the new director of the institute, Gillier, even prevented him from entering the school he had founded. Haüy died in 1822 in modest circumstances, and at his funeral, simple and sparsely attended, there was a small group of students from the institute. Among them was, in all likelihood, the young Louis Braille, who would inherit his legacy and transform forever the reading and writing of blind people. Among Haüy's pupils, Alexander Fournier played an important role in giving continuity to his work. He introduced a practical and significant improvement concerning the staggering of the lines. Thanks to this adjustment, the embossed lines no longer became confused under the fingers, and reading became smoother and clearer. The work of Haüy and his pupil Fournier marks the beginning of the modern history of the education of blind people. Although their systems were later superseded, they had the great merit of taking the first concrete steps. Haüy founded the first school and, together with Fournier, experimented with new techniques. Above all, they demonstrated that access to culture for blind people was not a utopia, but a real possibility. Their work was the beginning of a pedagogical revolution that would change forever the destiny of blind people in Europe and around the world. However, this revolution was only just beginning.
Haüy's experience showed that blind people could read and study, but the methods available still presented significant limitations and made more functional solutions necessary. At the beginning of the 19th century, a ferment of ideas and experiments swept across Europe. Inventors and educators were searching for a simpler and more legible system which, if possible, could also offer the possibility of autonomous writing.
This will be the subject of the next video.